All right, good evening, everybody. Give me a second here to get everything all sorted. All right, this one shouldn't be too long unless you guys have a bunch of questions that come up. I can't see them on my screen. I do have the Zoom meeting open on the other so we can communicate if you so choose. All right. It's been a busy week. I spent, 4 hours in Nation Builder training. I spent another 3-4 hours working on the bylaws and doing some research on the bylaws. So those are in progress. Then we've got what the heck was it today? God dang it. And then I have my counterpoint duties, which I don't know, maybe 8 hours. So it's been a fairly busy week. And which brings us to the point of this whole point of the Nation Builder training. The whole point of doing this Nation Builder training is to get to the point where I'm spending my time getting what looks to be more productive work done. Because what you guys don't see is how much time we're spending on the back end trying to get stuff done so we can be successful moving forward. We have to build sustainable systems. We can't continue to reinvent the wheel. One of the biggest complaints activists have been talking about for the last few years is how we continually have to reinvent the wheel, essentially reinvent the wheel every year, and how we don't get anything done because we don't have a sustainable system. And so the whole point of Nation Builder, the whole point of the Volunteer Organization Committee, and that will come from that, so we can have sustainable issues, can have sustainable programs. I want to do a newsletter. I want to have neighborhood outreaches where we do literature drops. I want to do these things. I want to have more events. I want to have sponsored outreach things, and fundraising events and all the various things that all of us want to do. We want to have our picnic, but we can't do that without trained volunteers, trained and organized volunteers. And we can't do that if we don't train and organize them. And the very first step of that is organizing ourselves so we can organize and train our volunteers properly. It is that simple. You cannot start a project without first planning it through and then preparing the ground. And so we've planned it, and now we're starting to prepare for it. And now that I've gone through this training, I can start working on getting the volunteer subcommittee, the volunteer organization committee, working. And then once that committee is working, we can start doing things like the newsletter. Then once we get the newsletter going, we have more engagement, and then we can start doing literature drops because we have something to drop. And these things all work on each other. We can't skip ahead. It's not going to accomplish our goals. Our goal is to have a sustainable long-term outreach effort. And we only do that with long-term strategic planning. Okay, now I think, what else do we have on tap today? I didn't even follow my own. And I think that's actually it for my agenda today. I just wanted to come here and tell you what progress we've been making, which I told you that we've been doing. We talked about how frustrating it is to be going slow, but the reason we're going slow is so we can build a sustainable future, a sustainable program for the future, build our outreach efforts, our volunteer efforts. Eventually we can have legislative efforts, and we can have, organized fundraising efforts. We've got to stop doing things ad hoc. Yes, we could get stuff done in a cloud of dust, but then what? If you don't have a plan, if you don't have a system in place to take care of volunteers, to organize volunteers, then what are we doing? 2 years ago we had a successful state fair booth. I interfaced with lots of high quality volunteers, not activists, volunteers. There's a difference. And then we did nothing with them, which is my fault. And that's what we're trying to solve. That error, that mistake that I made is what we're trying to solve here. So we don't do that again. We need a better future, and we have to build it ourselves. Okay, so with that said, that is it for tonight. For this week's agenda, I'm working on, we hopefully get a draft version of the bylaws up for you guys to view. I wanted to have 2 meetings. I wanted to have a meeting in April and a meeting in May, but the April meeting simply isn't going to happen. I'm still a week behind. So we'll have a meeting in the second half of May, and we'll try to get that as soon as we can schedule it. I'll get with the rest of the board, and we'll schedule that. Hopefully I can announce that next week, or at least a tentative date. And so look for some activity from the volunteer outreach and support committee this week. That should actually start moving, and we should have hopefully get you a draft copy of the bylaws. I do have my copy of the draft bylaws, but it's just got some questions, some comments, and a rewrite of what we talked about a couple weeks ago. So there's not much news to tell you, and I can't. It's not right to tell other people. At this stage, it's not right to have the conversation fully out in the open. I don't mind, but the other people have different views. All right. Other people, devil's advocates, and working their way through things. Some of that needs to be done privately. So unless there's any questions, and if not, I will be on the Zoom meeting for another half hour, 45 minutes. If anybody wants to go show up in the Zoom meeting, the links are in the description. If I'm not there for a minute, I've just gone out the room. I'll be right back. And there should be no waiting room. And I will see you next week. There should be a meeting. I think it's Thursday. We've got another volunteer meeting, I think Thursday evening. It's in the events. And I'll post next week's events tomorrow. I'll get them settled and I'll post them tomorrow. And thank you guys for stopping by, and I'll see you next week.